Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a really provocative argument from a source that claims our future has pretty much already been decided for us. And, well, the outlook isn't pretty.
So let's just start with that opening statement. It's incredibly stark, right? It's a huge claim, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to explore. This idea that for all of us, our fate is already sealed.
So what's the core idea here? Well, the source argues that we've already passed a critical threshold, a point of no return. And why? Because of decades of widespread inaction on the biggest global crises we face.
To really get what they're saying, you have to understand this concept of a tipping point. And according to the source, this isn't about just one problem. It's about us entering an age where these irreversible changes are starting to cascade across everything: our climate, our economy, and our society, all at once.
You know, there was a time we could have changed course. The author actually points to the 1970s as the last real shot we had. But from their point of view, that time is long, long gone. That window of opportunity, it's slammed shut. And now the consequences are, well, they're baked in.
Okay, so if this is a chain of falling dominoes, which one gets knocked over first? The source points to a concrete example, a system we all depend on: the global insurance market.
The argument here is kind of shocking. It's that even the insurance industry, one of the wealthiest industries on the entire planet, is starting to buckle. It just cannot afford the massive costs of climate change's super disasters anymore. And what happens? Insurance markets freeze up, and regular people can't protect their homes or their futures.
And this isn't just about money. The author sees this as a critical failure of one of our most basic institutions. You see, insurance is a foundational piece of our world. When it breaks, the effects don't just stop there. They ripple outwards with some really dramatic, implosive results for everything else.
That ripple effect, it actually has a name, and it's the main metaphor in our source material. It's called the failure cascade. The idea isn't just that one thing fails, but that its collapse actively triggers the next one, and the one after that. And the author really doesn't mince words about how dangerous this is. They call these cascades lethal and wicked, powerful enough to completely unravel the strongest systems we've ever built, way faster than we could ever hope to react.
So this is how the author predicts the chain reaction will play out. It kicks off with inaction on climate. That leads to the insurance system failing. And from there, critical things like housing and water supplies start to break down. That triggers financial chaos and ruin. And the very last domino to fall, according to this argument, is society itself.
But it's not just giant, abstract systems like insurance that are at a tipping point. The next example the source uses is way more personal for a lot of us. It's the simple promise of a stable career and a good life.
The source is basically saying that the old social contract is dead. You know that path? Get a good education, land a solid career, build a stable life? It's broken. For so many people, the new reality is a world of low-wage service jobs and unstable gig work that can't even cover the bills, which is fueling this massive cost of living crisis we see everywhere. And here's the crucial part. The author doesn't see this as some temporary slump we'll bounce back from. They point to huge structural changes, like AI and offshoring, and say they've permanently changed the job market. That old world of a stable, lifelong career, it's gone. For good.
So all of this just leads to one giant, obvious question, right? A question the source dives right into. If these problems are so clear, why on earth didn't we act?
And what's wild is that the author's answer isn't that we didn't have the answers. It's not rocket science. Experts have been proposing workable solutions for decades. So why does actually fixing anything seem impossible?
Well, the source gives a brutally blunt assessment. It puts the blame squarely on the shoulders of our leaders, suggesting they've been too afraid to take risks, always choosing to do nothing rather than make the tough calls needed to head off these disasters.
And this gets to the core of the accusation. The argument is that the people with the power to actually make a change aren't interested in building better systems for all of us. No. Their only real interest is protecting their own power and their own little slice of the pie, at the expense of everything and everyone else.
Which brings us to the really bleak conclusion of this whole argument. We're left with a future that was made for us, not by us. A future that was forged by decades of what the author sees as deliberate paralysis.
From this point of view, the path is now set. The consequences, whether it's bigger climate disasters or deep economic pain and social breakdown, are pretty much locked in. The time for preventing it is over. Now we just have to live with what's coming.
And this is the final, incredibly unsettling thought the source leaves us with. It suggests our biggest challenge has now fundamentally changed. The fight is no longer humanity against the forces of nature. Instead, the fight is now us against each other, scrambling for what's left. A battle of life against life. And in that struggle, the author says, that is when we truly enter the darkest of times.